Breaking Dad has a rule that nobody ever talks about out loud. The main cast, Stan, Roger, Bullock, can commit war crimes, murder witnesses, and burn entire cities down without losing a single night of sleep over any of it. But the little guys, the corrupt cops, the smug elitists, and the one-episode villains who wander too close to the chaos, they die, and they stay dead. Today, we're settling the score on who actually deserved it. Brett Morris was supposed to be Stan Smith's perfect best friend, and for a brief, beautiful moment in Dope of Faith, he actually was. Stan had prayed for a like-minded companion, and Brett showed up, checking every single box. He was ultra-conservative, he had a wife and 2 kids, he owned a successful breakfast restaurant called Brett's Breakfast Joint, and he shared Stan's love of paddle boating, boxing, and getting tested for AIDS together. The friendship was everything Stan had asked for. Then, Stan found out Brett was an atheist, and everything fell apart in the most spectacularly cruel way possible.
I guess that's why God, in his infinite and glorious wisdom, brought us together.
Well, I don't believe in God.
Oh?
Enough, Stan. Why is this such a big deal? Because if I can't make you believe in God, then you won't go to heaven, and I want our friendship to last forever. Just picture it! Unable to tolerate the idea that his perfect friend didn't share his faith, Stan decided the only reasonable response was to systematically destroy Brett's entire life. He blew up Brett's house. He deliberately spread bird flu at Brett's restaurant to ruin the business he'd spent years building. He brainwashed Brett's wife into believing she was a lesbian so she would leave him and take the kids. By the time Stan was done, Brett had lost his home, his livelihood, his marriage, and his children, all because Stan couldn't accept that a good person could exist without sharing his specific religious beliefs. Devastated and stripped of everything he had, Brett tried to end it all by jumping off a building. This is where Brett's story stops being a tragedy and starts becoming something else entirely. While in a coma or near-death state, Brett made a deal with Satan. The devil revived him in exchange for a commitment to spread Satan's glory on Earth. Brett came back as a full-blown Satanist, wielding a demonic goat guitar that gave him genuine musical power, and carrying a smug, chaotic energy that made him increasingly insufferable to everyone around him. Here's the thing about Brett's transformation that matters for this list. Stan created that monster. Every bit of misery that Brett carried into his satanic second act was directly caused by Stan's inability to respect someone who lived differently from him. But that doesn't make Brett innocent. The smugness, the chaos, the enthusiastic embrace of everything destructive, Brett chose all that. He had every opportunity to pick a different path after surviving what Stan put him through, and instead, he leaned into becoming the worst possible version of himself. His final appearance came in 100 AD, the show's landmark 100th episode. Brett was attempting to summon Satan once more when the episode's massive bus crash sequence turned everything into chaotic carnage.
I played Stan's satanic best friend in episode 302.
Stan built Brett and Stan broke Brett. But Brett made his own choices in the end, and those choices pointed straight downward. His exit was the only logical conclusion to a character arc that started with one man's cruelty and ended with the devil collecting what was owed. If Brett Morris was a tragedy wrapped in bad decisions, Lieutenant Chaz Miliaccio was something far simpler and far more satisfying to watch go down. Chaz was a corrupt detective who appeared in Season 6's Cop and Roger, and he wasted absolutely no time establishing himself as one of the show's most straightforward villains. When Roger joined the police force and turned out to be genuinely talented at the job, Chaz saw an opportunity. He took Roger under his wing and immediately began teaching him everything wrong about police work. Chaz turned a willing student into a dirty cop, and then used that partnership to build a personal empire of corruption within the department.
That was my first taste of real power, and it felt great. Then Chaz showed me how I could feel that way every day.
When Stan discovered what was happening and attempted to expose them, Chaz responded the way every small-time tyrant responds to accountability. He kidnapped Stan and held him hostage, then ordered Roger to murder his own CIA partner to keep the operation quiet. This wasn't a character with complicated motivations or sympathetic backstory. Chaz was a man who'd been given authority and used it as a personal weapon against the people he was supposed to protect. His death was so satisfying that the show filmed it from multiple angles in slow motion, which tells you everything you need to know about how the writers felt about him by the end. When Roger finally turned against his corrupt mentor, he climbed a rope, lined himself up carefully, and delivered an elbow drop directly onto Chaz's head from high up. The result was immediate, graphic, and complete. Chaz's head exploded on impact. His headless body knelt on the floor for a moment as if the rest of him hadn't received the message, before collapsing under a sheet. Chaz abused power, corrupted a partner, and ordered the execution of an innocent man to protect himself. The show gave him the death he earned, and then gave us the slow-motion replay so we could really appreciate it. Not every character on this list was violent or dangerous. Some of them were just deeply, exhaustingly unpleasant people who made every room worse by walking into it. Borugard Lefontaine, Langley Falls' premier elitist hairstylist, falls firmly into that second category.
If I were you, I'd take your hair behind a shed and shoot it. Ride, Montague!
Voiced by Leslie Jordan, Beauregard was a diminutive man with a thick southern drawl who rode everywhere on the back of his loyal greyhound dog, Montag, because apparently walking was beneath him. He first appeared in Star Trek as an exclusive stylist that Francine couldn't get an appointment with until Steve became a famous writer, which immediately established that access to Beauregard was something you had to earn by impressing him. His entire personality was built around finding people unworthy of his attention and making sure they knew it.
I cannot let the mother of Langley Falls' legendary bad boy author look like this. Shame on you!
In Regarding Steve, Beauregard and his equally condescending associates actively sought out people they considered stupid so they could mock and belittle them. This wasn't a passive arrogance where he simply looked down on people from a distance. He went out of his way to find targets and make them feel small, treating cruelty as a leisure activity for the sophisticated. His end came in 100 AD when he boarded the bus that would kill nearly 100 characters, motivated entirely by greed and the reward money being offered for capturing Jeff and Haley. The bus went off a cliff and into a fiery crash, and Beauregard was among the 96 passengers who didn't walk away. Beauregard looked down on everyone around him his entire life, but our next corpse took a different approach and simply made himself impossible to like without ever understanding why. Andrew was a BICI office worker in Season 11's My Affair Lady, and he represents a very specific kind of American Dad kill. The death that happens because everyone around the character simply wanted him gone, so the show decided to give the audience what it wanted. Nobody at BICI could explain why they hated Andrew. Co-workers openly admitted they didn't know the reason, they just did. He was an awkward, face-stuffing everyman who tried to be friendly and received nothing but contempt in return, which, under different circumstances, might have made him sympathetic.
Hey there, I'm Andrew.
Yeah, nice try.
You're gonna fit in great here.
But Andrew also pursued Haley while Jeff was still missing in space, putting him firmly in homewrecker territory and making the audience's desire to see him removed feel completely justified. The Office busybody Mary had a plan. She lured Andrew into her car during a company retreat to Belize, made out with him to give him false hope, then detonated a car bomb that killed them both.
Hey, check it out. Looks like somebody had a good time in Belize.
Oh, Andrew. Oh.
The entire office heard the news and erupted in celebration.
Mary killed Andrew!
Andrew was not a monster and he wasn't a criminal, but he was the wrong person in the wrong situation making the wrong choices, and American Dad has never been particularly interested in mercy for characters who fit that description. Andrew was hated for reasons nobody could put into words, but others were hated for reasons that were painfully clear to everyone who ever sat through a Sunday service or watched a good man get run over for being too decent to survive. Father Donovan and millionaire Matt Davis represent two very different failure modes that the show handles with equal ruthlessness. Father Donovan, voiced by Martin Mull, was the Smith family's Episcopalian priest across many seasons, and he was everything a priest should not be. He openly admitted he had no faith in God. He acknowledged he was staying in the job purely for the pension. He performed his duties with the enthusiasm of a man waiting for a bus that he knows is already late.
Oh my God, he is the Antichrist!
He died multiple times, most notably in the Christmas Antichrist episode, Season's Beatings, but the show kept bringing him back through continuity resets because that kind of shameless hypocrisy apparently never runs out of material. With Martin Mull's passing in 2024, the character's future is genuinely uncertain for the first time. A man who spent his entire run on the show being faithless and hypocritical is now connected to a real loss that the show can't simply write around. Father Donovan deserved to stay dead every single time the show killed him, and the universe may have finally made that decision permanent. Millionaire Matt Davis had the opposite problem. He appeared in Season 9's The Longest Distance Relationship as Haley's boyfriend while Jeff was lost in space, and he was perfectly, uselessly decent. He worked as a janitor to experience life, he skydived into the family's house to impress them, and he bought them a new home because he had the money and the heart to do it. The writers found him too boring to keep around, so Roger ran him over to eliminate a witness after an unrelated accident, then manipulated Haley into taking the trip Matt had planned so she could reunite with Jeff. Matt Davis stayed permanently dead. The show sacrificed a genuinely good person for narrative convenience, which is not justice, but is also consistent with American Dad's worldview. Good people die so chaos can continue. It's practically a mission statement. Both of them represent the show's most uncomfortable truth. That goodness and hypocrisy get punished with equal enthusiasm, and the truth runs even deeper when you look at who never gets punished at all. Here's what makes American Dad genuinely uncomfortable to think about when you sit with it for long enough. The characters on the list who actually deserved their deaths, the corrupt cops, the smug Satanists, the greedy elitists, represent a tiny fraction of the genuine evil that operates freely in Langley Falls every single week. Stan Smith has committed acts that would qualify as war crimes under international law. He's manipulated, endangered, and destroyed the lives of people who trusted him, repeatedly and without lasting remorse.
Just looking for a signal. Definitely not zooming in to see if you're wearing underpants.
Roger has murdered people across dozens of identities, discarding lives the same way most people discard parking tickets. Deputy Director Bullock runs his agency with the ethics of a medieval warlord. None of them ever stay dead. None of them ever face proportional consequences. The show gives them endless resurrections and fresh starts while permanently erasing supporting characters for crimes that don't even register on the scale of what the main cast does before noon on a random Tuesday. Billy Klops was a creepy CIA groundskeeper who died off screen and haunted Stan as a ghost until he found peace, and his entire contribution to the show was being irritating. Dr. Ray Petit, the CIA therapist voiced by Ted Danson, has been eaten by giant ants, decapitated by a fumbled grenade, and inflated to death by a leaf blower, and he keeps coming back purely because Stan needs someone to talk to about his feelings. Even Hercules, the Greek butcher who married Stan's mother Betty and appeared to be a genuinely kind man who made her happy, ended up dead off-screen with an expensive funeral that left Betty broke. American Dad hands out permanent deaths like they actually mean something, which makes every kill on this list hit harder than it has any right to in a cartoon about a CIA agent and his alien roommate. If you want more animated karma delivered with the same twisted logic, our Simpsons video is exactly what you need to watch next. Subscribe so you never miss the next one.
Just stop this nonsense.
Never!
Are you watching this?